Basically, the entire history of Carrie, the 1988 Broadway musical, in about 4 minutes and 54 seconds. Ready, and go. This is Michael Gore. This is Dean Pitchford. They are the two composers of Carrie the musical. They worked together to write the songs for the movie called Fame, which did pretty well. Both of them are fans of Stephen King's novel and movie Carrie, and for some reason, Larry Cohen, who wrote the screenplay for the movie, thinks it would be a really good idea to make a musical out of it. For some reason. Anyway, Cohen and Gore go to the Metropolitan Opera to see a show called Lulu by Alban Berg. It's about a prostitute. And there's also this thing about the relationship between the mother and daughter in the story, and there are parallels to high school life. Gore and Cohen decide to take that plot device and use it for their musical of Carrie. The mother-daughter thing, not the prostitute. Basically, all three of them begin to work on Carrie the musical over time, sort of as a backburner project. In 1984, they host a workshop of the first act of the show. The workshop opens with Laurie Beechman, Annie Golden, Liz Calloway, Peter Neptune, Laura Dean, and Maureen McGovern. It actually goes over pretty well, and the creators announce that the show will go on Broadway in 1986. Unfortunately, that isn't exactly how things turned out, largely because they weren't able to raise the funding until 1987. Around the same time, a guy by the name of Terry Hands, who has directed shows at the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford, expresses interest in directing Carrie the musical and helps the writers find some additional backers. This is big problem number one. The only other musical that Terry Hands has ever directed is the original production of Les Miserables at the Royal Shakespeare Company, which did very well. However, his musical directing style is British at best and terrible at worst. The show finally stumbles its way to Stratford and opens there on February 13th, 1988 with Darlene Love, Lindsay Hadley, Charlotte d'Amboise, Jean Anthony Ray of Fame, Sally Ann Triplett, and Barbara Cook. How does it do? Well... The reviews are mixed to negative, the audience reaction is varied, and in general, Carrie the musical appears to be in some sort of entertainment and success limbo. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people pretend they don't really have much of an opinion about it, including this guy.
I'd rather not say.
Anyway, the tryout is plagued with a lot of production problems. They realize that they can't drop the bucket of blood on top of Carrie like they do in the movie because it will short-circuit her microphone. They end up doing something that looks utterly ridiculous, but hey, at least her microphone doesn't go out. The costumes look like they came from ancient Greece rather than Broadway's Greece, and some of the dances and numbers are... choices? Barbara Cook almost gets decapitated by a set piece, so she quits the production. However, she agrees to stay on until they can find a replacement for her, which leads to her staying through the entire Stratford tryout as they cannot find another replacement on such short notice. Terry Hands is making the show an utter disaster, Lindsay Hadley is just trying to do her best, Barbara Cook really doesn't want to be here, and Debbie Allen is having a heart attack over the choreography. And with all of this going on, one really wonders if Carrie the musical is ever going to make it to Broadway. Intermission! Somehow, the show actually does make it to Broadway. The show begins previews on April 28, 1988, and everyone flocks to Carrie the musical to see if it is really as bad as they imagine it is. And for the most part, it is. People record audios of the show like there is no tomorrow, in part because they believe there actually will be no tomorrow for the show. In fact, some people think that the show will close after its first preview. But no! Carrie the musical saunters bravely, if erroneously, onward, and has its official opening on May 12, 1988. The show opens on Broadway with Darlene Love, Lindsay Hadley, Charlotte d'Amboise, Jean Anthony Ray of Fame, Sally Ann Triplett, and replacing Barbara Cook, that lady from Cats. Author Stephen King is there for opening night, as are a bunch of other famous people that are mentioned in this TV broadcast. Speaking of TV broadcasts, let's see how much the reviewers liked it.
Carrie is a catastrophe.
It's very much Bye-Bye Birdie gone bonkers. This is one of those shows where everything is bad. Even the costumes are ugly.
The music is awful, the June Moon lyrics worse.
Carrie the musical is garish.
You could take the money and throw it.
Carrie is horrible.
Who?
To make a long story short, Carrie the musical closes on May 15th after 5 regular run performances and 16 previews. However, the show does not end there, as the show gains a cult following and lives on through various high school and college productions, and at least several revised versions which are available for licensing. But whenever a theater does one of the revised versions, they all have to look back and remember that for one brief shining moment in 1988, Stephen King's novel was first translated into a stage musical flop known as Carrie.